Death. Death.
I'm pretty ambivalent towards death. It doesn't scare me. I don't think about it very much, except in the context of, like hearing about the Pope recently or hearing about family. It doesn't really bother me. I've never been scared of death. I've never been. It's never. I've never had like a morbid interest with it.
Oh, well, usually I just don't. I'm not. I'm trying not to think about this. You know.
For me, in terms of like death, I believe that death simply works like the creation of life in reverse. It is you remember nothing before life, and that is something that will happen after death. You don't remember anything because you do not exist. You stop processing, therefore you stop comprehending, therefore nothing.
I think it should be embraced personally because at the end of the day, whether you're atheist or you're really religious, neither of you both know. Genuinely. Whether you believe in an afterlife or not, it doesn't fucking matter. Neither of it matters because you're gonna be fucking dead.
I don't know. I don't know. For the longest time, I mean, I didn't have a reason to be here, so like death was kind of the only thing that kept me from doing anything because I was scared. But I think now I just kind of accept that it'll happen when it happens, and so might as well make the best of the time while I'm here to spend it. You know, it's not something to be scared of, but it's not something to welcome with open arms either. Just something that happens. There's other things in life that is more motivating than the fear of dying.
It is something to think about sometimes. Back whenever I was doing a dive into philosophy in my early 20s, I thought about death a lot, but since then, I am pretty content with where I am. If it happens, it happens. I'm not looking for it, but I'm not going to be too terribly torn up if it finds me either. Obviously, I don't want it to happen to people who are close to me, but other than that, I'm pretty. Death and I don't really. We're kind of like parallel lines. We don't meet very often.
About death? It doesn't scare me at all because it's a cycle of life. So that's just how it goes. You just gotta make the most of the time. Yeah, I'm pretty comfortable with it. You just gotta make the most of what the time you got. The thing is, you gotta think about it. Each one of us was lucky enough to even be born because there was like the giant old race of like millions of us trying to go through the egg. You know.
I mean,
Death is like my main motivator now. Me myself, I always try to do 1% better every day. That's just my mind.
I was just in a car accident, um, like a week ago. I was driving in the back of someone's car. I was like texting on my phone. I didn't even see it coming, and then I guess they hit black ice and crashed into the back of somebody else's car. And holy shit, like yeah, first accident I've ever been in. I don't even know how fast we were going. Maybe like 30 miles per hour, 30 freedom units. But damn, that scared the hell out of me because I've played so many racing sims and GTA where you can just like go ridiculous speeds and it doesn't feel like anything and then you're crashing and it's like, oh haha, I crashed, haha, so silly. But this shit was like 30 miles per hour and like my phone flew out of my hand. I was wearing cat ears and those flew off my head and it was just so shocking, like just boom, just like what the fuck happened and luckily I wasn't, seriously harmed or anything like that. But it really made me understand like we're fucking with powerful forces, so be careful.
I've had death in my life, but it's never really shaken me. I guess the one time it got to me was when my grandfather on my mother's side passed. We were pretty close, and I knew it was coming for a long time. He had diabetes, and he was going through dialysis for a few years. I visited every now and again, and whenever he passed, I was already moved out, and I chose to not go to the funeral because I liked him. I don't really like the rest of her family. It was, sometimes I wish I had gone, but others I think to myself, probably for the best. Because I liked him. I'll leave it there. I liked him a lot. He's a very interesting guy.
But I like to believe. Like, I believe in God because of my Irish faith. I believe in God because of my Irish faith, but I would be happy to accept that there's nothing after death, if that is how it is, if you get what I mean. It's Christianity, yes, but I understand everyone else's point of view in terms of not having anything after death. It's just, as soon as you die, that's it. And I'm not gonna pressure that on anybody.
Well, let me think. Well, probably we will just... wait. Reborn? How do you say it? Yes? Reborn? Just yes, in another body, in another life. Something like this.
Right? It's hard to imagine death, and that's why I think a lot of people have a bit of a hard time wrapping their head around it, which I don't blame them. I don't fucking understand it, and I don't think there is a way to understand it. But as I view it, it's just like after death there is nothing, and it is a nothingness unlike you have ever felt, because it is impossible to experience nothing because you do not exist. Essentially, it will not feel anything different than, well, anything. It's just nothing. There's no sensation. There's no thinking. There's nothing. You are not even left with your own thoughts.
I want to keep talking about death, because obviously that's like interpretation of a 50 Cent quote. Now I want to talk about my interpretation. And death is a huge part of who I am. One of the things I believe in is ultimate truth. And for me, ultimate truth is death. It's the fact that, yeah, I'm going to die. One day I will cease to exist. That sort of directs my every decision.
It was probably when I was 16 or 17, really getting into history again, like U.S. history, and we were going back and forth on, you familiar with the bank wars back in 1830? Between Andrew Jackson, the current president. It was about from 1828 to 1836 or so, and it was essentially banks, the issue that we have today of banks being private businesses and not really contributing much to the actual American people. And Mr. Jackson did not like that, and essentially was going to, if you've ever heard the phrase, den of vipers, this is a den of vipers and I will rout it, that's where that comes from. That was Andrew Jackson. Because all the other, but a lot of other politicians had money in their pockets from these banks and were kind of giving them favors. It's not dissimilar to what we're looking at today. And we were going back and forth about that, and I remember him saying that he was very surprised to be having a in-depth conversation on that with someone who was like 16, and that he was very happy with that. He was an instructor. I forget at what university, but he was a history instructor and was very happy to be able to talk on the level with someone about that. That's probably my favorite memory.
If we can reborn in any timeline, I would like to reborn as a dinosaur. That's all that I want. Dinosaurs is my everything. Or no, if I would talk about animals, I would like to reborn as a platypus. I think they're really cool and so adorable and cute.
Not necessarily, no. I believe in the concept of a soul to the extent that it's hard to define because it really depends on what it really depends on what you define a soul as. So I think, well, so if someone says is like talking about their soul, I would relate that to consciousness, their existence and their being, right? It is the entire portion of them that is operating this skin mech that we have, right? It is our decision making, it is our emotions, it is our comprehension, and it is our memories, right? It is essentially everything mental and everything controlling the physical that I would define as the soul. But a lot of religions, especially Christianity, I know this for sure, defines souls as something attached but separate from consciousness, something that lives within you, but not as your conscious and mental mind. So that's where I would beg to differ, but that is also just a complete difference of concept, right?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are afraid of death. And I think probably the scariest thing about death is it really makes you realize, like, damn, what the fuck am I doing? Like, what have I been doing? So, sort of keeping death at the forefront of my existence all the time leads to me making better choices, healthier choices, and choices that are more true to me. Yeah, death doesn't have to be scary. One of the things I want out of my life, probably the thing I want most, is I want to die a peaceful death. And even if that death isn't peaceful, like even if God forbid or whoever forbid, if I'm hit by like some sort of moving object at a high speed, or if somebody like does malice, hopefully not again. I want to be at peace, and to me that means living true to myself and making decisions that I'm proud of.
Yeah, it took a lot to get there. If you just continue living, just 'cause you can, you're not going to enjoy it in a few years. Looking back, you're gonna be like 50, sitting down and be like, oh, I did absolutely jack, 'cause I just didn't want to die. Versus doing things and having fun, knowing that eventually your time will come, and there's just do what you can while you got the time.
Thank you for having me. Always fun. I'm talking about philosophy and all that.